This is the South Pacific Adventist News. Hello, I'm David Gibbons. Aputula is a remote Northern Territory town which has been declared an alcohol-free area by its 260 Aboriginal residents. There are no churches in the town, but the residents have now asked for an Adventist church worker to move in. Years ago, when the Adelaide to Darwin train used to run through the town, it was known as Fink River, but the railway was moved to avoid flooding. Today, the town is a model of what other Aboriginal communities can become. The residents have totally banned alcohol, insist their children get an education, and they grow their own crops, including quality table grapes. Half of the town's homes have satellite dishes installed so that they can watch the 24/7 Adventist-owned Hope television channel. The township is just north of the South Australian border, and Adventist church leaders are examining how they can find a pastor for the people. Best-selling Christian author Philip Yancey told 1,500 people last weekend that he sometimes finds it difficult to pray. The American-born Yancey spoke to many large crowds during his tour of Australia, but the crowd at the Adventist tertiary institution Avondale College near Newcastle, New South Wales, was one of the largest. Yancey promoted his new book about prayer and spoke about how hard it is to meet the biblical challenge to pray continuously. He suggested that Christians should allow God to guide in their inner conversations. As a sign of improving finances in the mission field, 2 missions in the South Pacific will become reorganised as conferences over the next 18 months. Conference status is awarded to regions where the church is financially independent. A conference can appoint its own leaders and select its own projects. The 2 new conferences will be the Central Papuan Conference and the French Polynesia Conference in Tahiti.
We've just returned from the French Polynesia Mission mid-year meetings, and they are making excellent progress on the work.
The process of changing from a mission to a conference involves a lot of work and takes more than a year. The Adventist Church in Bundaberg, Queensland, joined others in the community last weekend to celebrate 75 years since their St Andrew's Church was built. The Adventists only purchased the building a couple of years ago, but the Presbyterians and the Uniting Church members who used to own it joined in the Adventist celebrations. Retiring State Premier Peter Beattie gave the Adventists a cheque last year for $20,000. The Queensland Government grant helped to restore the church bells and repair the interior of the heritage-listed building. Principal Dean Bennett announced this week that his Central Coast Adventist School is now providing a new major in music. His comments followed the music performance night, where the audience was treated to a range of performances from more than 60 students. Exceptional levels of creativity are now experienced through choirs, bands and individual performances, and a number of students are studying music as part of their higher school certificate study program. Hundreds of Adventist pastors and evangelists across Australia receive a publication called Evangelism News every 8 to 10 weeks. The 8th edition was published and distributed this week. Scores of Adventist lay people are also requesting the newsletter because it focuses upon what the church is doing to win converts. The newsletter is an initiative of Graham Christian at the Melbourne headquarters for the Adventist Church in Australia, and is edited and published by journalist Phil Ward on Queensland's Sunshine Coast. And now finally, in this week's special education edition of The Record, a Fiji Times report tells how hundreds of children spent their recent school holidays at an Adventist-run vacation Bible school. Australian Adventist Schools Director reveals how Jesus, at the age of 12, was able to outsmart university lecturers without the aid of an iPod, SMS texting or the internet. And the editorial reveals that Adventist teachers are the reason why there are 18,000 more students in Adventist schools across the South Pacific than there were 10 years ago. Thank you for watching Adventist News. See you next week. I'm David Gibbons.